Hey everyone, Gill Gross here, and it is time for a preview of the 2022 Wimbledon men's final between Novak Djokovic and Nick Kyrgios. I'm excited for this final. It feels fresh, surprising, unpredictable. You have historical significance in terms of Novak Djokovic's side of the equation. And then you have the Nick Kyrgios intrigue. And I don't know how much of that I need to really explain. He's just a little different. He pulls people in a way that others don't. And if you deny that, you're probably letting your personal feelings get in the way. And he has plenty of detractors. And by the way, while we're on the topic, he has earned those detractors. In fact, I'm very excited for what this could do for the sport. I do think that this match has the makings of something that can be very positive. And Nick Kyrgios' arc is such an interesting one because he's someone who many for years and years and years were saying has the talent to play in these kinds of matches. Never did it. Was never even close. People were saying that when he was 20 years old, 22 years old, 24 years old. Then we gave up. Then I think everybody gave up because it looked like it wasn't going to happen. And he never really got close. Made 2 quarterfinals. Those were a pretty long time ago. Had never made a semi. Now he's in the Wimbledon final. It's quite the story. But there is a dark cloud hanging over that story, which is the news that broke earlier this week. I think it would be not unreasonable to disclude this from the overall coverage of the storylines heading into this match, that he is accused of abuse by his ex-girlfriend, and he has a court date coming up, I believe, this summer in Australia. So that is a dark cloud hanging over the Nick Kyrgios storyline right now in general. Of course, Djokovic, I alluded to the history, going for Wimbledon title number 7, 4th in a row, 21st major title. All of those things hanging in the balance and increased significance when it comes to the fact that it might be Novak's last major of the year if the United States doesn't ease their immigration restrictions. So let's get into this. Let's break it down. Head-to-head between these two, 2-0 Kyrgios. He is actually on the record saying that if Novak can't beat me, he can't be the GOAT. He said that on Ben Rothenberg's podcast a couple years back. So he's clearly takes pride in that 2-0 head-to-head record. The matches were played in February and March of 2017 in Acapulco and Indian Wells. And context is really, really important when you look at that 2-0 head-to-head because they were played in a period of time very close together when Novak Djokovic just wasn't himself. He was coming off of a loss to Dennis Istomin at the Australian Open. He would go on to be destroyed in straight sets, 6-love in the third against Dominic Thiem at Roland Garros. His last match of the year would be at Wimbledon when he retired against Tomas Berdych and would shut down for the rest of the year and have an operation on his right elbow. So it just wasn't Novak. I watched the extended highlights before coming on here, and it was just very off. Not good. Not good. So Kyrgios was able to take out that version of Novak Djokovic on both occasions in Acapulco and Indian Wells. For our purposes, you throw it out. You don't look at those matches. You don't look at what happened. You think this is completely different. Surface is very different. Those are high bouncing, hard courts, very high bouncing. And this is a grass court. Plus, circumstance, context matters. And this is going to be very, very different. Kyrgios at Wimbledon. It's been a kind draw other than Tsitsipas in round 3. So the key is that he beat Stefanos. Other than that, Paul Jubb, Filip Krajinovic, Brandon Nakashima in the 4th round, Christian Garin in the quarters. On paper, those are all matches that Kyrgios should have won. So, and I favored him in the Tsitsipas match as well. So, as much as he's in a major final, and that's shocking because he had never done that or gotten close. At the same time, you look at the opponents. Yep, makes sense. The revelation here is that his body held up, is that there was no disastrous blow up mentally, emotionally, but more so, because I don't think that happens that often, more so that his body held up. That has been the thing more often than not that has really completely inhibited, if not an opponent coming along that has better tennis than him, what's completely inhibited his ability to go deep in majors has been his body. But it held up. Grass, less physical, that might be a factor. 5-setter against Nakashima, 5-setter against Jubb, held up. So that was the big revelation for Nick. For Djokovic, there have been some hiccups, but those hiccups have been followed by stretches of sheer dominance. Losing the second set to Van Rijthoven, sets 3 and 4 were straightforward. Loses the first 2 sets to Sinner, sets 3, 4, and 5 were convincing. Loses the first set to Norrie, sets 2, 3, and 4 were very, very dominant. So I would say Djokovic's emphatic finishes have been more significant than his low points. However, he will want to start this final better than he started his last 2 matches against Sinner and Norrie. I want to start with the mental game as we get into Djokovic and Kyrgios. I'm going to talk about both players' paths to victory from a technical standpoint, but I think the biggest mystery here is the mental side of things. That's the hardest part to predict, and it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, Nick has never played a match this consequential, and not even close. It's one thing playing a top seed in a big stadium in round 1, 2, or 3. Kyrgios has been in that position many times as the draw that he is. He's played big stadiums, but never has there been a huge title on the line. Never has there been history on the line. It seems like he genuinely cares about the outcomes of his tennis matches recently, and I just don't know what that is going to look like because I've never seen Kyrgios play a match like this. And mentally, he's volatile, he's mercurial, he's unpredictable, and for these reasons, it's almost like a chemistry experiment, and I don't know how these two chemicals are going to mix. I have no idea what Wimbledon final and Nick Kyrgios 1+1, I don't know what that equals. I really don't. Djokovic, I'm sorry if you've heard this too many times, but I still got to say it. Djokovic is feeling more pressure than usual, and I think the slow starts against Sinner and Norrie have reflected that. He has not won a major since last year's Wimbledon, and I would include the Olympics as far as cumulative disappointments come. Australia was a traumatic experience for him. He doesn't defend his title at Roland Garros, and he might not play the U.S. Open. I mean, what more do I need to say? And he's down 2 majors now because Nadal is the player who won in Australia and Paris. So I don't know what more I need to say. Like, Novak, I'm sure, doesn't try to think about that while he's playing, but is that going to be part of the cumulative pressure? Yes, I do believe so. And Kyrgios is a player who can be pretty uncomfortable to play against. And regardless of his results, and let me say them right now, because at some point I do want to say this. Look, Kyrgios is lifetime 3 wins to 14 losses against top 10 players at majors. He was on a 9-match losing streak until beating Tsitsipas in round 3 here. Despite that, he does bring things to the table that can be pretty, and some of those things have nothing to do with how he hits the tennis ball. Things that can be pretty disconcerting in terms of how he can disrupt a tennis match and make you feel uncomfortable. So, look, it's a tough situation for Djokovic mentally. And if we get freewheeling Kyrgios against tight Djokovic, that match looks a certain way. If we get overwhelmed Kyrgios against a Djokovic who looks like he's been here 7 times and won 6, that's his record in Wimbledon finals. That's a completely different match. So I'm fascinated to see psychologically what this looks like. And now let's get to the tactics. The number one thing, as we start with Novak here and his paths to victory, you have to start with the return. You have to start with the return. The question is, what happens when Nick's serve comes back into play? What happens if that happens? I think what happens is Nick's bad habits, the habits that we see come out when maybe he's a little stressed or nervous or he loses focus. Lazy footwork, poor decision-making, mistakes from attacking positions. And those things are all related. Nick's serve is a band-aid to those bad habits. He might be up 40-love. He plays 2 loose points. It's 40-30. Eraser, the serve. He's down love 30 because he played 2 poor points to begin the game. Serve, eraser. That's the serve. Against Djokovic, you simply have to be sharper, or I will rephrase. If your serve is going to come back, you simply have to be sharper. So the question is, will Nick be able to execute over and over and over again at a rate that other opponents do not ask him to execute, because instead of playing one shot, one swing of the racket, the serve, he has to play 2. He has to play 3. He simply has to hit the ball more. He has to play more. Novak's mindset will be this: if I keep making him play, he'll blink, he'll crack. The mistakes will come. Let's see. I think Novak might be right. Let's flip it around. Djokovic is serving. I'm struggling to see how Nick Kyrgios is going to win more first serve return points than Jannik Sinner and Cameron Norrie. 82%. Djokovic won 82% of his first serve points against both of those players. Now that is so high and so good that, in all honesty, I wouldn't be surprised if Nick does a little bit better. But here's my point, especially if you look at Jannik Sinner and what he brings to the table. Who's got a better first serve return, Sinner or Kyrgios? Who moves and defends better? Who plays better from neutral? These are the things that matter when it comes to winning first serve return points. You have to come from behind. You have to survive the violent serve +1. And in Djokovic's case, it's a very precise and technical serve +1 that he brings to the table. And I just don't really see how Kyrgios, given his level of defense, his first serve return, his level of defense and movement and play from behind and neutral, from behind the baseline, I don't really see how that's superior to Sinner and Norrie. And the way Djokovic has looked behind his first serve has been so impressive, so sharp and technical and offensive, and it's the serve and it's the forehand and it's the net play in the transition game. And I think the return itself is probably an issue. Djokovic has become incredible as a spot server. Nick's first serve return, it's very reliant on anticipation. I don't love it. I don't love it. You look at high-profile matchups that Kyrgios has been in this year. Third set at Indian Wells against Nadal, didn't make returns. Just could not make returns. Nadal had a good serving set, and Kyrgios on a slow, gritty hard court wasn't getting it back. Medvedev at the Australian Open, more excusable, but returns, they were not there for Nick against Medvedev at the Australian Open this year. So I think that could be an issue for him in this match as well against Novak's spot serving, which has been so good. And I don't think Djokovic's first serve is easy to read at all. And again, winning return points, it's not just about the return. You need to be able to win from neutral and defense against Novak's controlled aggression. And I don't know that Nick has the athleticism and the defense to really do that. Last point here for Novak, his comfort hitting slice second serves to Kyrgios' forehand is a big plus in my mind. If you're a righty and your de facto second serve is a kick serve to Kyrgios' backhand, you are shooting yourself in the foot in such a major way. That is one return that Kyrgios has down pat. It is just phenomenal how Nick takes that return early on the rise and attacks it and takes time away. Phenomenal. So the fact that Djokovic is so prolific in hitting his slice serve to the righty forehand on the second serve, that's such a key against Nick because he's a killer against kick serves. So I look for Djokovic to average triple digits on his second serve and to hit slice serves to Kyrgios' forehand. And let's see if Kyrgios can attack that second serve, because that's a key part of Kyrgios' return game, is to be offensive on the second serve return. Because, again, it's not the first serve return. It's not that good for Nick. It's the second serve return and attacking it. That's how we break serve. Let's see if he's able to do it against Novak's second serve. I think Djokovic, from a matchup standpoint, presents some problems in terms of Kyrgios' ability to do that. And if Novak's smart, he'll hit body serves as well. Kyrgios, technical advantages. Maybe his serve is that good. Maybe it's that good. And not necessarily the first serve, which I do think he'll have some success on the first serve, because it doesn't matter who he's playing. He's going to have some success there. The second serve is the key. He hits his second serve phenomenally well. And what he could potentially disrupt is Djokovic's ability to neutralize on the second serve return. And if he does that, that's where we might see this match go into tie breaks. That's where we might see the margins in this match really shrink, because if you look at how Djokovic would play a Berrettini or a Hurkacz or a Felix, all of those guys would still win over 70% of their first serve points against Novak. The problem that some of those players would then run into against Djokovic, certainly Berrettini did in the final last year, is they'd be winning potentially under 45% of their second serve points because they have to play neutral baseline rallies on their second serve points against Novak. Kyrgios' second serve might be on another level. Like, it might be at the level, potentially, and again, I'm talking about paths to victory. It needs to be in order for him to win. It might be on the level where he's actually still getting some free points and getting +1 opportunities and getting to attack behind his second serve off of that first ball, setting himself up for success on second serve points. The second thing that could work in Kyrgios' favor, he is too good offensively to get passive against on this surface. And that's especially because of the way he attacks the net and puts away his volleys. And even if it's a difficult volley, he is ready to make difficult volleys. His hands are fantastic at net. And Novak cannot let himself drift behind the baseline and give Nick Kyrgios chances to hit approach shots and come forward, because Kyrgios will be efficient in those scenarios. You know, he will finish when he has his opportunities, and he has very unpredictable shot selection from offensive positions, whether it be on the forehand or the backhand, mixing in the drop shot, hitting short angle cross court, going down the line in those situations, difficult to read. And it's not like it's on a different level from a Sinner or a Norrie, where Djokovic can certainly dig himself out of those holes and neutralize and defend and get back into points where it's looking like he's in a difficult position. Honestly, Kyrgios is too potent offensively. He's too skilled and talented for Djokovic to win from defensive positions. He really does need to try to not surrender attackable balls. That's going to be really key for him. So that's good for Kyrgios. I mean, that's a big part of his success, is that if Djokovic drops the ball short or if he gets passive or defensive, Nick's ready to make him pay. He is. I'm also not sure that Novak is going to enjoy Kyrgios's backhand cross court. Let's see how that cross court goes, but I think that ball, I think Kyrgios takes some pace off of it, keeps it very low, and Djokovic is not able to really apply pressure with his backhand in that cross court. I think Kyrgios applies more pressure, not with the backhand itself, but with the next shot. I think if you bring Novak inside the baseline, you kind of disrupt his court position and Kyrgios can attack from there. I think Kyrgios finds some forehands. Same thing that Roger does with the short slice cross court on grass, and he attacks from there. I think Nick does that with his flat, low backhand cross court. When he takes away depth, he hits that short angle, and Nick will want to find offense from there. My prediction. Ultimately, I think the key in this match will end up being 0-4 shot rallies. I think Djokovic will show a better ability to survive the serve +1 on Kyrgios' serve than Kyrgios will show on Novak's serve. I could see the second serve points being pretty close, but I think Novak's ability to put enough returns in play versus Nick's ability to come from behind on those first serve return points is ultimately going to be the difference. My prediction is Novak in 4. Enjoy this final, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.